The painting of forever. Ever since I was a little girl, I've loved going to museums with my grandparents. The towering walls, the quiet echo of footsteps, the reverent stillness, there was magic in the air. My grandparents would always stop at the same painting. It was a masterpiece where two women stood by the ocean, one reaching out her hand to save the other from a stormy sea. My abuela would say it was about love stronger than fate. My abuela would smile and whisper that it was their painting. They met in front of it and fell in love. Naturally, I grew up believing that I too would meet my great love in front of a painting, specifically that painting. Every time we visited the museum, I would sit in front of it, waiting. I imagined the moment, a girl sitting beside me, talking about the artwork, and when we'd look into each other's eyes, there would be no question. We'd both know. But now, in my 80s, I have spent decades in front of that painting, waiting for love that never arrived. Still, I keep coming back, appreciating the painting, though it brings me a strange sadness. It's as though it reflects my life, so full of longing but never truly fulfilled. It was on one of those ordinary days at the museum, sitting in my usual chair, that I heard a voice next to me. "Mind if I sit?" I turned to see an elderly woman with short, silver hair, her smile warm and kind. She held an emerald green purse, and her eyes sparkled like they had stories to tell. "Of course," I said, inclining my head. She sat down beside me and looked up at the painting, letting out a soft sigh. "I've always loved this painting," she said. "I've searched for it for so long." "It is beautiful," I replied, glancing at her. There was something familiar in her presence. Something peaceful. She turned to me and smiled again. "Let me guess. Your grandparents told you a story about meeting in front of a painting like this." I chuckled softly, nodding. "They did. Every time we visited." "Did it ever work for you?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. "No," I said, shaking my head, a small smile playing at the corners of my lips. "I'm still waiting." Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "It never worked for me either." We sat in silence for a few moments, staring at the painting. There was a strange comfort in it, as if we both understood the quiet disappointment that hung between us. "What's your name?" I asked, finally breaking the quiet. She turned to me, her voice soft yet steady. "Death." I blinked, unsure if I had heard her right. She smiled again, and it was the most beautiful smile I had ever seen. "You're beautiful, Death." "And you, my dear," she said, leaning a little closer, her voice dropping to a whisper, "are you ready to love?" I felt my heart flutter, something I hadn't felt in years. "I am," I whispered back, feeling strangely calm. With a gentle hand, she leaned forward and kissed me softly on the lips. Her touch was delicate, and I could taste sweetness on her lips. It was as if I had been waiting my whole life for this moment. My soul felt light, like I was slipping away from everything that had held me down. Fear, loneliness, the endless waiting. As I faded from existence, I could see us both from above, her holding my hand, my body peaceful in the chair, a gentle smile on my lips. "Is this everything you dreamed of?" she asked me. I looked at her, and she was younger now, more radiant than I could have imagined. I nodded, feeling the weight of years disappear, watching as the wrinkles on my hands smoothed into youthful skin. "It is," I said, smiling with a sense of contentment I hadn't known in life. We floated above, watching the museum from the heavens. Below us, a young couple stood in front of the painting. The man knelt down, pulling out a ring, and his boyfriend began to cry, nodding before the question could even be asked. "With you here now, this painting will forever be seen as the painting of love," she said, her voice as tender as the brushstrokes that created the masterpiece we both adored. I watched the scene play out below, couples falling in love, proposing, cherishing their moments in front of the painting. And though I was no longer there physically, I felt joy for them. "Are you jealous?" she asked, her voice soft. I shook my head. No. I want people to be happy. I spent my whole life dreaming of love, but it never came. I could only dream of finding the perfect woman, but... She touched my hand, her eyes filled with understanding. And you never found her? I shook my head again, more slowly this time. No. The one I loved stood in the shadows. My best friend. I loved her, confessed my feelings, but she rejected me because I was a girl. I sat in front of this painting, waiting, hoping that one day she would come back to me. But she never did. And why not seek her out now? She asked, her voice soft, like a lullaby. I smiled, bittersweet. She died 50 years ago. I've been waiting ever since. Death looked at me with the kindest eyes, a soft smile crossing her lips. Would you like a second chance? I nodded, feeling hope flutter inside me once more. In an instant, I was back in the museum, sitting in front of the painting. My eyes welled with tears. And then I heard a voice, familiar, yet distant. I'm sorry. I turned and saw her, my best friend. She looked just as she had before, her eyes full of regret. You came, I whispered. She nodded, stepping closer. I didn't want to live a life where I wasn't happy with my choices. I love you and I want to be with you, if my window hasn't closed yet. I stood from my chair, facing her, my heart racing. Even if you broke my heart, I could never close my window to you. She stepped closer, cupping my face with her hands. You are perfect, and I love you. I love you too, I whispered, my voice trembling with emotion. In that moment, the years of waiting, the pain, the loneliness, it all vanished. We had our second chance. In front of that same painting, I proposed. And she said yes. We were married there, in front of the painting that had watched over our love for all those years. And when we had grandchildren, we told them our story, of how love had no bounds, no gender, no time. And they too grew up believing in the magic of the painting, carrying our love forward. We now watch from the heavens above, hand in hand, as generations continue to find their love in front of their favorite paintings. Love never dies. It transcends time, boundaries, even death itself. It grows, just as our love did, painting a story that will live forever.